It's not Halloween, but should be year-round as far as I'm concerned. It's a success candle, don't worry. Only good vibes here. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Remember those websites that you visited a couple times 15, 20 years ago? The ones that just stood out as being so weird? Where your memories are just so fuzzy that you even ask yourself, was any of that real? Yes, it's not just you. They were real. I thought it would be interesting to talk about them and find out what exactly their deal was. I'm not talking about the super grisly, gruesome stuff, but more of the odd, mysterious websites that sort of embodied that whole anything goes attitude that the internet had in its infancy. Unfortunately, a lot of these websites have been lost to time, but thankfully there have been a lot of preservation initiatives designed to keep as many of them alive as possible. I specifically want to shout out the Flashpoint Archive. They are a community-driven effort that runs their own software, which emulates, to the best of their ability, old Flash games and websites, and even provides an archived database for them. It is quite literally an online museum, an exhibit of oddities that allows us to reflect on how different the internet has become, to the point where it's hard to believe that this is even the same place. Much of this video is possible because of them. Let's start with a rather high-profile website that you certainly remember, a little site called Newgrounds. For those who are maybe too young to remember, Newgrounds was basically YouTube, but instead of videos, it was Flash material. User-generated Flash material. The website on its own is not strange, but the very nature of it allowed for very strange material to show up on it. And the site's very origins are even a bit unsettling as well. Newgrounds had a very casual presence throughout the 1990s and was sort of a pet project put together by Tom Fulp. The website mostly consisted of casual macromedia animations, including things like grotesque depictions of children's cartoons. They were things that could only be observed rather than be interactive. The technology for a Flash game in a web browser wasn't 100% there yet. And then Columbine happens, becomes a national tragedy full of controversy and people trying to point fingers at who's to blame, particularly violent video games. Well, Fulp had been experimenting with the idea of creating an interactive Flash game with the very limited tools that he had at his disposal. Just 3 months later, he releases a game called Pico's School, which parodied this incident and all the media sensationalism that surrounded it. Naturally, it was incredibly controversial, but also insanely popular. The game not only showed the true capabilities of this Flash technology, but also made Newgrounds a household name within the online space. Over time, it started to host other games and animations, and eventually became a site where people could upload their own creations for the world to see. And of course, many of these were surreal. One that comes to mind is Mr. Happy Face, about a humanoid figure that jumps out of a kid's TV and kills him and his dog.
Are you going to be my new friend?
I'm going to cut your throat open and use your blood as syrup on my pancakes.
You know, normal stuff. Then you had The Milkman, a solemn song about delivering milk to people's doors and featuring grotesque imagery, quite reminiscent of Salad Fingers, which was another one of these creepy animations about a post-apocalyptic world where the protagonist appears to be one of the few survivors. You also had the fun stuff. Then you had Peanut Butter Jelly Time, a Flash animation of a dancing banana. You'd think for a song that's only about peanut butter and jelly that it would be a dancing sandwich and not a... I digress. The Evil Strawberry. That was one of the earliest Flash videos I ever watched, with just very stiff, almost uncanny animation and audio. It always kind of gave me the creeps for whatever reason. Most of these do, even some of the ones that aren't supposed to. I think it's mostly because I associate them with the fuzzy memories of the very distant past, at a time where the internet was much more sparsely populated and spread out. These could have been created by anybody, for any reason. There's just a lot of ambiguity, and we'll get more into that in a minute. GobblerToys.com from around 2000 is a spoof on strange toys from the mid-20th century and American consumerism, featuring an almost Dadaist art style. Of course, many of these games and images that I've showcased came from sister websites, but the common ancestor of them all really was Newgrounds. Its inception really was the turning point in life and culture on the internet. Do you remember ManiacWorld.com? The best way I can describe it is that it was the online version of a carnival funhouse. It was a website that featured pretty much every category of oddity you could think of. Arcade games, puzzles, optical illusions.
It's giving me a headache.
Strange videos. Dog only responds to Beatles voice. What's my dog doing on here? A whole page just called Scary. And it was arguably most known as one of the websites which hosted something simply called the Maze Game. It is considered one of the hardest games ever made. In fact, no one has ever been able to get past level 3. I can't do this without looking terrible. There's a jump scare coming up. All right, go to this timestamp if you want to avoid it. The challenge is about going through this middle piece. It's a world full of sadists and masochists. You know which one you are. Why do I have this? Now, the Maze Game originates from Jeremy Winterrod's website back in 2003, but it garnered popularity from being shared across multiple websites. When I searched for it back in the day, Maniac World was always the first result on Google. And so, of course, people pulled this prank on their kids. I was one of the ones who pulled this prank on my parents because I was a little rascal. And I think it's time to play it again.
I haven't played this in a really long time. I mean, I know when it comes up, we'll give it a try. At level 1, go through. Starts off very simple, and then you go through, if you hit any of the black, it takes you back to, see, like that. I already know when it comes up, so, I mean, it's not gonna be as scary. I know it's like one of these here. It's still going. Well, I don't know what I expected.
These were called screamers back in the day. I actually found quite a few that I've never even seen before.
This one's called Scary Screamer Without the Maze, so it's just the part where you get tortured. I've never seen this one before. I can tell that's copyrighted music. We're gonna find out. It's like the DVD menu for The Exorcist. Oh, okay. I don't like this at all. I don't know why. This is one of the most hideous screamers yet, is what it says. Oh, I don't like this. I hate this. I hate this so much. How long am I waiting for? I don't know if I can do this. I don't usually get scared of things, man. This is like 5 minutes long. What is this? Am I missing something? Oh, that's the whole video? Are you kidding me? That's what I waited for this whole time? Okay, that's not even going in the video.
You know what? That 5 minutes of waiting was scarier than anything else. Even that book. Just the waiting was terrifying, so I guess it worked. Maniac World was eventually shut down as hosting it became too expensive. But the former owner of the website now does space photography, which is freaking awesome. I love that kind of stuff, so definitely check them out. Now, this next one definitely falls into the category of ARG style content, and I understand those are kind of a dime a dozen nowadays, but something about this one feels a bit different, and it was one that would always pop up when going down these types of rabbit holes. It is called 973@nama973.com. For those wondering, Etnama is the human backwards, and it dates back to around 2003 and contains a series of puzzles. To this day, the website is reportedly still unsolved publicly. Some of these pages have been solved, like the homepage, which contains this strange maze-type setup with a hidden hyperlink in the middle that takes you to a series of strange shapes and riddles. It even includes a forum where people trying to solve it can chat with each other. But what's interesting about this website is that there is so much, yet so little information about it. A lot of the research that I've come across is really just he said, she said, so it's hard to put together an exact narrative for what this is. But from what I've gathered, it is a website that teaches you how to speak God's language and allegedly allows those who solve it to speak with interdimensional beings. At least a lot of this comes from a forum post made in 2021 by a user named Lucy, claiming that they finally solved it after discovering the site in 2010 and have become enlightened as a result. They talk about how the website's creator, David Dennison, made the website to find the next Messiah, among other interesting claims. The website also contains a series of avant-garde, bordering on abstract art pieces that are presumably also part of this puzzle. According to one source online, this website could contain as many as 12,000 web pages. However, I have not yet been able to find any evidence for that. Some sources have claimed that the owner of this site, David, has passed on. But once again, I am not exactly sure this is the case, and I believe I even found evidence to the contrary on that. Overall, whether this is some convoluted art piece or some secret society, all the mystery surrounding it is quite fascinating. And it's even more impressive that this website's appearance has remained pretty much untouched since it first launched. Speaking of contacting interdimensional beings, this next one is probably the most disturbing of the lot, in my opinion, especially if you're more superstitious, but it is quite an excellent case study in social phenomenon and internet fads, so I'm going to include it. It all centers around a website called 13horror.com. The website no longer exists, and to my surprise, I actually wasn't able to find any surviving copies or screenshots of it that were good quality, not even archived ones. The only ones I could find just showed garbled up HTML, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to base a lot of this off secondary sources as well as my own memory. 13horror.com dates back to around 2010, which simply contained a link to purchase a book with the same name. A collection of short stories, 13 is reportedly the scariest book ever written and brings physical harm to those who read it. According to legend, it has made readers throw up, scream, and cry, particularly after reading its most notorious chapter, The Magic. Legend also states that the author of the book disappeared after writing it, and that the book was even banned in Italy because the contents of it were so scary. The book started gaining a lot of traction in July of 2011, when a fad started on YouTube called the 13 Horror Challenge. Here's how it works. You are supposed to be alone in a room with the door closed and the lights turned off. You can use a flashlight for reading. You are then supposed to read the aforementioned chapter, The Magic, which is around 2 pages long. After reading it, you are supposed to put your ear against the door and describe what you are hearing on the other side. Unfortunately, a lot of these videos are now lost. I remember there being quite a number of them, but only a few have survived. And yes, from my memory, these videos on average got around 100,000 views apiece. And according to the website, as many as 100,000 people even participated in it. So yes, although it was for a very brief period, on that side of YouTube, this was kind of a big deal. The videos that are still around are pretty chill, but there are a few that I remember where people would scream and all that.
Alright, f this shit. I'm out of here. I am out of here. That's it for this.
A little fun fact, at around this time, one of my siblings actually called into the radio show Coast to Coast AM to share this story. But since then, the story has pretty much been lost to time. The true author of it is allegedly still missing to this day, and original physical copies of the book are now incredibly rare, if not impossible, to come by. Let's jump right in. So the rules of this book is that you are not supposed to read anything inside until you actually start the ritual, for lack of a better word. So I have absolutely no idea what's in here. I don't remember most of what I watched back when this trend was happening, only very faint memories of it. So this is a complete surprise for me. There's another infamous chapter in here called The Dare that requires 2 people, but everyone I reached out to was like, how did you get this number? I'm blocking you. So I'm just gonna do this one for now. I do not mean to offend anyone superstitious or religious who was watching this. Do I think this particular book is real? No, of course not. I think it was just an incredible use of marketing to promote it at the time. In fact, some of the evidence I have come across points to that. If you go to 13horror.com, the number 13 not spelled out, it appears to be a horror storytelling contest, and The Magic is featured on there as a bestseller. So rest assured, everything is okay. And so we're gonna try it out and relive this old school YouTube trend. All right, everyone, I'm in the closet. I even got the Mac photo booth app running for the realism. How about we go ahead and get started? Please don't try this at home. I don't condone this. If something happens to me, it's funny, but I don't want anything happening to you. So just please don't. Okay. Have you ever read something and enjoyed it so much you wish you'd never read it, just so you could read it again for the first time? You only get this chance once, so don't blow it. If you're not alone right now, then put this away immediately. That scared the crap out of me. Go somewhere where you can close the door behind you and read this without being disturbed. Doesn't matter where, your bedroom will do, or a toilet. Oh, he's European. Do you wish you'd played along? Okay, this is a lot of preamble. What is this, a Nation Squid video? Some of the magic has begun already, but you are also unified with all the people who have ever done this before you, and all of those who will do it after you. Oh, okay, so whatever that means. And this certainly isn't a joke. I'm not here to waste your time with talk of the metaphysical. And when you follow instructions perfectly, things tend to work. Someone hasn't built IKEA furniture. Enjoy this moment. Here it comes. Here comes the magic. Very quickly, go up and walk over to your door you closed behind you a few minutes ago. Put your ear against the door and listen. I don't hear anything. Oh, that's outdated. I'm not going to read that. Invite me in. I know you're alone in there, all by yourself in the dark. And I want to prove to you that the magic works. All right, it's over. I'm not dead. Now you know. Scariest book ever written. Lastly, I want to talk about what is arguably the weirdest website of them all. YouTube. Yes, YouTube. You heard that right. The one we've been talking about. A behemoth of its time that quickly became the largest online video repository, it is bound to also be the home of many creative yet peculiar subcultures. And this was especially the case during the Wild West era of the site, when rule and regulation was far in between. This, combined with a lack of reference to past examples of similar things, made the veracity of many strange videos quite convincing. But not only that, it also allowed room for more innovation. What I think encapsulates both these sentiments quite well was a YouTube channel known as Prank House. In around mid-2010, this YouTube channel started gaining traction because it was based on a very unique idea. It would be the first live-action video game. Now, with YouTube's annotation system at the time, choose-your-own-adventure videos were rare, but not unheard of. Prank House was different because it was all going to happen live. How it worked was quite simple. You would download the Prank House app to your computer, open it up, and then you'd tune in to the channel's live stream. It was a game show featuring contestants, and from your app, you had access to controls and multiple rooms, where you could do things like shoot paintballs at people, toss water at them, throw things at their face, all on a live broadcast. It worked in a sort of queue system where people would buy tokens so that they would get a chance to use these controls. Word of the channel got around through videos that promoted them, with their first game debuting in October of 2010. The contestants included Charles Trippy, Strawberry17, Onision, Shay Carl, some of the most popular channels on YouTube at the time. The first game was a huge success, apparently peaking at 20,000 live viewers. But then, just months later, in 2011, the founders of Prank House allegedly put out this message and just completely disappeared, and no one is quite sure why. The channel hasn't been seen or heard from since. But what is crazy to me is that so little documentation of this channel has survived, especially for how big it was. I had to base a lot of my foundational research off my own memory, and through that I was luckily able to find just a little bit more about it. But there seems to be a lot of conflicting information and answers about this story, including things like licensing and distribution issues with supposed Hollywood elites. I haven't had a chance to go through all of it, but if you would like to see a full separate video about the Prank House YouTube channel, please leave a like on this video and comment down below letting me know. Either way, Prank House serves as a testament to how little experience and innovation the internet had, and so they decided to create it themselves with the tools that they had at that time. It was ambiguous in that people didn't know what such a concept was going to look like, yet ambitious in that someone was bold enough to give it a try. Of course, these cultural attitudes were reflected in other genres of YouTube content as well, particularly creepy paranormal videos. There was something especially unique, even disturbing, about paranormal videos during early YouTube. They were much more mysterious, had much less information and precedent attached to them. Ghosts caught on tape, fallen angel sightings, chupacabra spotted in South America, and a sort of lawless period of the internet, it got people thinking, could these videos be real? In retrospect, obviously these are fake, but that's because we have the knowledge that we do now to spot these types of things. The understanding that ordinary people can create videos like this. But back then, this wasn't exactly the case. Things are more believable when a medium is new. And that is because people lack a good reference point to similar past examples, and because they simply just don't have a very good understanding of it. Before YouTube came around, the concept of videos on the internet certainly existed, but wasn't nearly as common. The idea of someone creating a well-edited video with CGI effects was often associated with Hollywood industry professionals. So when you introduce that type of content into a site that's much more raw and candid, like YouTube at that time, that line of skepticism does become blurred because it's rather unexpected. I've actually made a video discussing this very phenomenon, which you can check out here. It provides a lot more information. I would like to thank all my Patreon supporters and channel members down below, patreon.com/nationsquid, and you can also buy me a coffee. Thank you for watching, everyone.